Cut his arm off. So, when I got blown up in Vietnam, that's the first time I recognized that there's some kind of spiritual force that ain't ready for me to leave this earth. African names are given to you by the people that know you and know your spirit. People would ask me for years, how come I didn't have an African name? I said, because nobody's given me one. So they got together and they came with the name of Akinsanya Cambone. I said, what does it mean? They said, it means the hero avenges. And I said, the hero avenges? I said, no, I can't take that name. I said, because the people are the heroes. The people are the makers of all history. It's the people that make history, not individuals. And he looked at me and he said, we knew you was going to say something like that. But we calling you Akinsanya, that's what we calling you. So I said, oh, shoot. So that was the name. I've got kind of used to it now. So I guess I got to live up to it now. I mean, that's a hell of a thing to live up to, you know? When I started kindergarten, I would draw because all the kids would tease me because of the polio. They called me Cyclops and, you know, it looked like I had one eye or whatever. And they would tease me so bad, I would just put my head down, like at my desk, and I'd take my pencil and I'd start drawing. And I developed the dexterity in my hands and my hand and mind coordination. I could draw pretty much anything I thought about. High school, I think that's when I did my first painting. That painting is called The Atomic Bird. Where that came from is when we were in grade school, we used to have bomb drills. And a bomb drill is the scariest thing you ever had because the thing goes like, and it's real loud. They had us terrified all through their childhood with those bomb drills. We also had a class where we learned about reincarnation, where you can come back as some other creature. And it was kind of hard for me to believe, but I said, well, you know, that might be true. Maybe after we die, we do come back as something. So in my mind, I had died, came back as a bird, and the mother bird was sitting on me, and I was all warm and happy, and I was in this little nest. I wasn't hatched yet. And then somebody dropped this atomic bomb. It blew up the tree, it blew up the nest, it blew up the mother bird, and it launched this egg out into space. And the shell eroded off of the egg as it traveled through space. And then there was no shell. And there was me, this little bird, terrified from this bomb. They had lost over 25,000 Marines in Vietnam. So they had to get some more Marines. When I got my induction papers and I went down to Oakland for my physical, they had all of us stand in line and they said, count off 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. All the ones stepped forward. After we stepped forward, they said, you have now volunteered for the United States Marine Corps. I said, what the hell? I told them, I said, I have a problem with my eye and I've been having infections in my left eye because it doesn't tear. And they said, oh, don't worry about it. If you got a problem with your eyes, we're going to put you right up front. You won't have any problem. And so I just go ahead and go and see if I survive.
Location over. 35, roger.
I didn't understand nothing about the world. I couldn't even spell communism. They told me we was going to fight communism in Vietnam. They just said we got to go fight the Vietnamese because they're trying to take over in Vietnam. They're going to come over here and enslave us again. That's what they told us. When I got to Vietnam, they gave me a secondary MOS, 1461. That was a combat illustrator. I would go out in the field and fight, and I had to retain all the images that I had seen in the field. And I had to draw them when I got back. A lot of the drawings that I did were so gory and bloody that the people I turned them into shredded them, destroyed them, threw them in the dumpster. The fact that that was my process, that the post-traumatic stress disorder that I have is 20 times more severe than everybody else's. The first time I really realized that everything they had fed us in training was a bunch of lies. I was in the back of a pickup truck, and all of a sudden we heard a big explosion behind us. We saw all these people standing up crying. They were really upset emotionally, and I could see their pain. And I realized that these people are people just like us. When their children are hurt, this whole thing, this whole scene just plays in my mind over and over again. I mean, that stuff just breaks my heart, man, to see that, because I didn't know the history of Vietnam or the history of the people of Vietnam and their courageous struggle against imperialism. And that's what the fight is. I was blown up twice in Vietnam, one by 81 millimeter mortar round that came into the compound. And I was running out to my hole with all my clothes in my hand. I was asleep when I heard the sirens go off, that it's a red alert. So I'm running out there, and I got my rifle and my helmet, and I got all my clothes, and I'm in my skivvies, you know? And I'm running out there, and the blast hit right in front of me. And it knocked me back. I was up in the air, looking down at my body in the rice paddy. I was laying in the rice paddy, just dead, mouth open, everything. And then I saw these 4 Marines run over, and they grabbed me. Each of them had an arm and a leg, and they took me to the road, and they started pumping my chest. And I'm looking at them, and I'm saying, I don't know why they doing that. Can't they see I'm dead? They kept doing it until they got tired. 2 of them gave up. And this one brother, he kept pumping my chest. And he kept on, man, until the next thing I know, I was coughing, and I was throwing up. And my ears were ringing. They just kept ringing. And I'm like, damn, and I felt numb, shaking all over, you know. And I was traumatized. But then I realized that I was alive. Every Wednesday, we had what they call soul sessions. The one main guy that organized this, we called him Detroit Blue because he was from Detroit. And they would read the newspaper to us and read stories that were of interest. One thing he read in the Stars and Stripes was the year that they banned the use of the 50 caliber machine gun and the 12 gauge shotgun on the Vietnamese people. They said, you can't shoot the Vietnamese with them. We asked him, what the hell does that mean? He said in Geneva, they have rules of war. They're supposed to follow the rules of war. If you kill, you can't kill people with overkill weapons. So 2 weeks later, the rebellion in Detroit broke out. So he gets the paper, and we all sitting around him, and he's starting to read it. And then all of a sudden, he stopped reading. Then we saw tears well up in his eyes, man, and start running down his cheeks. Then he just took the newspaper and threw it down and got up and walked off. And we sat there and we got the paper, and some of us who could read little words, we started trying to put together what it said. Turned out that they killed about 50-something people in that rebellion. And they shot a black woman in the face with a .50 caliber machine gun. And we said, oh man, we understand, the girl that got killed, we know you knew her and all that. He said, hell no, that ain't why I broke down. And he said, what broke me down is I felt so betrayed by our own government. They're using weapons on our people, our mothers, our fathers, our brothers, and our sisters that they can't even use, we can't even use against America's worst enemy here in Vietnam. That's what broke me down. I felt betrayed by our government. I said, damn, that was deep. And that had to marinate, I had to think about that shit. And I think that after that incident, that was pretty much all I thought about until I got out of the Marine Corps. When I got out of the Marine Corps, I ended up in the Black Panther Party as the Lieutenant of Culture of the Sacramento chapter. Books were instrumental in my development. The World in Africa by W.E.B. Du Bois, Ghana, the autobiography of Kwame Nkrumah. And I said to myself, damn, I got to do something so that people who can't read can know this history. Elaine, Arkansas, Charles Deslans, the Ashanti women, about what the CIA did to Patrice Lumumba in the Congo, Nat Turner, Denmark Vesey, and Gabriel Prosser. And these are stories that people have to know so that these things won't happen again. Knowledge is a dangerous thing because once you have knowledge, you can't do something that you know is fundamentally wrong, because no person who has any inkling of humanity about them can support genocide against a helpless people who are getting bombed and run all over the country from place to place. And every place they tell you to go, they bomb that place. And they tell you to go somewhere else and they bomb that place. That's ridiculous. And how in the hell can we sit up and tolerate that shit, man? It makes me sad because I know what bombs do. I've been blown up twice. Once by an 81 millimeter mortar and next by a Claymore mine. And it's horrible. When it's happening, before it happens, before it hits, you're terrified. You are terrified. Those people in Palestine are terrorized, all of them, especially the children. They got to grow up terrorized. And that's a shame. And we have to look at it, and we have to look truth square in the face and say that we're responsible for those babies being killed. That's us. That's on us. We can't blame it on nobody else. Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never has, and it never will. That's like when we were slaves on the plantation. If it hadn't have been for Nat Turner, Denmark Vesey, Gabriel Prosser, Boukman Dutty, and all the ones that rebelled against slavery, we'd still be slaves today. Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never has, and it never will. It wasn't a coloring book to be colored. That's not what it was for. It was a history book to be looked at and understand the history of our people and how we didn't just sing and dance and eat watermelon on those plantations. That many of us revolted. Many of us rebelled. We fought against slavery. So I figured that I would create a book in cartoon form showing the police as pigs, to vilify them, showing any kind of a mercenary force or people that support that as the enemy or pigs. Pigs, a low-natured beast, a creature that bites the hand that feeds him, a foul, depraved traducer, usually found masquerading as a victim of an unprovoked attack. And I want people to understand that pig is not white people. Pig is anyone who oppresses. They can be black, they can be white, but I think that the people of this country need to organize to wrest control of the power structure of this government, take it out of the hands of the pigs, and place it in the hands of the people where it belongs. The people need to control the government. The people of every country need to control their government. You can't have a dictator running shit, because the only thing they're doing things for is the benefit of those who own and control the means of production. These are the rich and the super rich. They own and control everything on this earth. And we have to take it from them because it don't belong to them. God put everything here for the people. Everything belongs to the people. And the only way the people are going to have it is the people have to organize and take control of it. Right now it's in the hands of the pigs. And we don't want the pigs having our destiny in their hands.
You can't do anything by legislation. It takes education. The white man in this country needs to be re-educated so that his behavior pattern toward non-whites will change. And the black man in this country also needs to be re-educated so our behavior pattern and attitude toward ourselves will change. And once a little educating is done on both sides, you'll probably find that that in itself will do more to bring about the spirit of brotherhood than all of the legislation that's designed to force the two together. You can't legislate brotherhood. That brotherhood comes about through understanding, and understanding is created through education.
I was a Panther, and I was committed to the Black Panther Party. I believed in what we were fighting for, and that's what I was fighting for. And I still believe in the same thing. And my life is still committed to the people's struggle. And I'll be struggling for the people until the day that I die. That's just the way it is. We got a gang of irons in the fire, and we got to iron all this out. And we will.
Tell us about the Black Panther Party and your involvement in that. You were the Minister of Culture?
I was the Lieutenant of Culture in the Sacramento chapter of the Black Panther Party. The Minister of Culture was M.B. Douglas in Oakland, and I worked under M.B. Douglas. I had one of the first assignments that I had after I did the Black Panther coloring book was to illustrate in cartoon form the party platform and program. And what I did is I took each point and I illustrated it, because the problem that we were having was that many of the people in the community could not read or write, and I could identify with this because I was in the same situation. Matter of fact, the Black Panther Party is where I learned how to read and write. And so what my job was to take illustrations and illustrate into drawings the party's wants and beliefs so that the people in the community that could not read could understand them. In 1964, 65, you had rebellions and riots all throughout the cities in this country, and people don't understand why. You had Africans rebelling against conditions of oppression. Nobody can understand us as human beings and how we have rights and dignity, but they had no problem with putting guns in our hands and sending us to Vietnam. And when we come back from Vietnam, they think we're gonna come back here that we call home and see them brutalize and murder our people, and we're not gonna do nothing about it.
The points were: number one, we want freedom. We want the power to determine the destiny of our African community. Number two was we want full employment for our people. We also want an end of the robbery by the capitalists of our black community. We want decent housing, fit for the shelter of human beings. And then we say we wanted an education. If a man does not have knowledge of himself and his history and his role in society, he has little chance to relate to anything else. We wanted all black men exempt from military service. Said we will not be forced to fight other people of color who in the world are victimized by this white racist government. Point number 7, we want immediate end to police brutality and the murder of black people. Then we wanted freedom for all black men held in federal, state, city prisons and jails because they have not had a fair and impartial trial. The Constitution gives you a right to be tried in court by a jury of your peer group. Peer, spelled P-E-E-R, is a person from a similar economic, social, geographical, environmental, and racial background. That's a peer. That's a person like you, and they will be able to judge you. Everybody tries to act like this country is not racist. Hell, this country was built on racism. And when I say racism ruled its application, it still does. Most people don't want to admit that, though. People have a dual nature. You can either be on the side of truth and justice, or you can be on the side of those who own and control the production and exploit the mineral resources of the world. You got a choice. And I think we have a dual nature. But I think the dominant nature for mankind is the human nature, where you support justice. And young people are the fighters. Young people are always ready to fight for a just cause. I'd been to Africa about 5 or 6 times, and while we were in Ghana, I'd wanted to go to Elmina and Cape Coast Castle. These were slave dungeons. Look at these here. This is where they used to keep you chained to the wall. Yes. For torture. Chain people to the wall. And when you go down in this dungeon, you got other rats over here.
And this is the way you go out to the slave ships. The ocean is right through that hole back there. When you get to that end, they call that the port of no return. Because once you go through that door, you never come back.
When you come this way, we're not coming back in Africa.
I ended up in this big chamber that he said held about 500 slaves. And I got in there and I looked up and there was an altar with some candles on it. And I got down on my knees and I started to meditate. And as I meditated, I had my eyes closed and I heard this woman say, "We've been waiting for you." And it scared the shit out of me because I never had anything like that happen to me. She said, "We've been waiting for you." And I looked up, and all around the room, I could see these spirit forms. It was a woman in the middle that was talking, and there was men and women on either side of her. And she said, "We need you to teach our children who were stolen about our history, about our culture, and about our religions." So when she put that on me, and I started thinking, well, I don't know about that, she answered me, "Don't worry. We have been guiding your hands." Once she told me that, I came to realize that all the work that I'm doing here is it's coming from a spiritual place. Most of it, I don't even know where it came from. Like when they said, "We need you to teach our children who were stolen." That's what I'm doing. I'm creating this work because long after I'm gone, it'll still be here teaching the children that was stolen. And I think our people who were stolen, we need to know this history. We need to know all of it. Some things I think men are just not supposed to understand. I think we just have to go with the flow. I've got so many of these things here. I mean, there's thousands of them. And each one of them has a different spiritual force. And as long as I'm doing that work, I don't worry about anything happening to me. I look at meditating and prayers the same thing. The only thing is that when I meditate and pray, I don't ask God for anything. I thank him for everything he's already done. I thank the ancestor spirits for everything they've done, because they've kept me alive and doing this work all these years, and I'm still doing it. And there's nothing, what else can they give me? I got life, man. And that's a blessing enough. So all I do is I thank God, or I thank the spirits, the ancestor spirits, or whoever they are. I thank them for everything that they have done and are doing for me and mine.